I realize a lot of us are still struggling with that persuasive essay. So let me see if I can go through this and break it down for you, make it a little bit easier for you to get all those components that you're going to need in your essay to get a passing score. I'm going to use a printable essay guide. So if you don't have one already, if you're not in my class, then you might want to go, I'm going to put the link down in the description. You can click on that and go print yourself out one. This is going to be like a formula for your essay to make sure that you don't miss anything that would get you a point. First, just a couple of general tips about the essay as a whole. A persuasive essay is not really a creative writing essay. It's more of a technical writing assignment. And what they are looking for, by they, I mean the essay graders, they have what we call a rubric, and that's a checklist of all the things that they're looking for in your essay. What they're looking for mainly is organization. They want to see that you have all the things that go together in the same place and that you're not just scattered everywhere all the way around. So primary thing is going to be to get this essay organized. Tip number 2 is that all organized essays are the result of organization. And the best way to be sure that you are organized is by using a rough draft. I know everybody hates to hear that word. You don't want to do a rough draft, or you think you're doing a rough draft, but are you really? So let's look at what a rough draft is and what a rough draft is not. A rough draft is not a sloppy copy of your final essay. So if the only difference between your rough draft and your final copy is that you wrote more neatly, then you never did a rough draft to start with. So what is a rough draft? Well, it's a sketch, or it's an outline. It's where you jot down all the thoughts and the ideas that you have, and you want to put them in your essay. It's kind of like puzzle pieces. You just put the pieces all on this little outline I'm going to give you, and then you go back and you put the pieces where they belong. Your rough draft does not have to have complete sentences. This is very rough. Just jot down some special words, some phrases, just some random thoughts, okay? You're not dressing this up right now. You're not using the perfect word or the perfect sentence. You are just trying to gather all your thoughts. This is actually the creative part, if there is one, of the essay, okay? Once you get all this down, then we leave creativity behind and we're just in organization mode. Okay, so let's look at the guide. Now, true enough, you're not going to be able to have this guide when you go in to take the test. But if you will practice it, 3, 5, even 10 essays between now and then, I know that sounds like a lot, but you can do this. You're not going to need the guide because it's just common sense. And once you learn the descriptions, it's not going to be something you have to have. You'll just make it a habit. Your basic persuasive essay is going to have 5 paragraphs. 5 paragraphs. Not 5 sentences, 5 paragraphs. Now, there is a difference between an essay question on a test, you can answer that with a paragraph, and an essay prompt, like what you're going to be given. An essay prompt requires an essay, and an essay has 5 paragraphs. So let's take them one at a time. This is not going to be hard once you use this outline. Now on your outline, the very first section here is for your introduction. Now before we discuss this, let me tell you the biggest tip I think I ever got about writing an essay, and that is to write your introduction last. Everybody wants to barrel off in there and might make this great introduction, but what are you introducing? If I was fixing to have a guest speaker come in here and I said, well, I don't know who's coming in here and I don't know what he's going to talk about, But, here he comes. See, I don't know what I'm fixing to introduce, so I can't do a good job at it. Well, you haven't written your essay yet, so how are you going to introduce something that doesn't even exist? So, best tip is going to be write your introduction after you do your body. But we're going to go ahead and look at the components of a good introductory paragraph first. Now, a good introductory paragraph, remember, this is your first impression to your reader. It is extremely important that you don't give a bad impression at this point, because you set up their expectations for the whole rest of your essay. Please be very careful. The first thing you want to do in your introduction is introduce your topic. Now, for a persuasive essay, you're trying to persuade someone to do something. So there's a dilemma here. Now, a dilemma is when there's two things or more, but mainly two things that you're trying to choose between. What are those two things? Your first sentence, or your first couple of sentences, should be to let your reader know what the two sides are. This sentence can and should be neutral. You're not voicing your opinion yet. That's going to come later. You're not proving anything yet. That's going to come later. You're just telling your reader to come on in here and let's look at this problem together. So, for example, some good introductory sentences might be, maybe if you're talking about selecting a cat or a dog for pet, a good first sentence might be, if you had the opportunity to get a cat or a dog for a pet, which one would you choose? That's a question. Or something like, there's always a huge debate about whether dogs or cats make better pets. See, that's a sentence. Now, a lot of people call this a hook because it's supposed to hook your reader in and make them want to start reading. Whatever you want to call it, you just need to introduce your topic at this point. The next component in your introduction is to tell your viewpoint. This is going to be your thesis statement. Now, before we discuss how to tell your viewpoint, let me tell you how to get a viewpoint in the first place. Because there is no point on the rubric about which side you choose. There's no extra credit for choosing the good side or the bad side. Both sides are equal. Essay graders are trained to not look at which side is chosen, but how well is the chosen side supported. So before you come up with your viewpoint, you're going to need to read both passages or whatever information is given to you for your essay prompt. And you're going to need to step back from how you really feel and what you really think and just look at it objectively and say, which side do I have more information? Which side can I better support? Because that's what it's all about. If you hate cats, if you can't stand a cat, if you would never have a cat for the rest of your life, but all of the information that's given to you seems to support and or back up having a cat for a pet, then for this one instance, you might want to write an essay talking about how great cats are. Nobody's going to come back 20 years from now and say, look, you wrote this essay about having a cat and you don't have a cat, so what's the problem? All you're trying to do is get your points. That's all it's about. So read through the passages and pick the one that has the best support. Okay, so once you have chosen your viewpoint, when you state it, I want you to be very broad with it. Do not limit yourself at this point. Your thesis sentence has to cover your whole essay. Everything in your essay should be directly related straight to the whole thesis statement. You can't branch off and start talking about something else because you accidentally limited yourself too much. Now, for example, if I used the sentence, dogs make better pets than cats because they keep owners active. All right, I have limited myself there. My whole essay has to be about how they keep their owners active. Now, if that's the whole essay, that's fine. I suggest that you make yourself not use the word because in your thesis statement, because that gets into your reasons, and that's where you start limiting yourself. A good thesis statement would just be dogs make the best pets. Then you're free to come in with other reasons. You're going to need more than one reason. So don't limit yourself to that one reason in your thesis statement. Keep it broad. Okay, couple more quick tips about your thesis statement. Number one, don't say I think or I believe. This is your essay. It's obvious this is what you think and this is what you believe. I think students usually add that because they're a little bit unsure about voicing their opinion, but that's the whole point of a persuasive essay. You are supposed to be convincing someone else that you are correct, and if you don't believe in yourself, then who else will? So be strong about it. Just say what you believe. Don't say that you believe it, just say it. That's fine. That's going to get you the point better than weakening it with I think or I believe. Now, the next thing is don't be cute or subtle with your thesis statement. Be blunt. Just put it out there. Don't say something like, what kind of an idiot would like to have a cat versus a dog? That's cute, but I'm still thinking, well, I'm not an idiot, but I might want a cat. So just go ahead and say dogs make better pets. Okay? So get your opinion based on what you can support, and then support it. Okay? Believe in it. The next component of your introduction is your roadmap. Now, this is one sentence, maybe two. You can put it in two. I usually like to put it in one for, ease of making sure that grader gets what I'm saying. But you can stretch it out into two if you want to. Now, you're going to need 3 reasons to support your thesis. This is where you are going to summarize all 3 reasons. Now, you're not going to prove your reasons yet, but you do need to state them. And on your guide here, it says 3 reasons, 1 counterpoint if possible. We're going to talk about a counterpoint a little bit later, but for now, let's just stick with 3 reasons that would support my thesis statement. And my sample thesis was that dogs make good pets. So, my summary or my roadmap would say dogs make excellent pets because, now's when you want to put because in here, they are good companions, they help owners stay active, and they can keep owners safe. This lets the reader know exactly what is coming in my essay. You're not trying to hide things. You're not trying to surprise your reader. Okay? You just want to tell them what you're fixing to tell them. Now, at this point, your reader's probably going, well, how are they going to substantiate this? How are they going to prove this? So that's what keeps the reader reading, not the fact that they don't know where you're going. At the end of your introduction, they should have a very good idea of what topics are coming. Now, in the rest of your essay, you're going to address these 3 reasons in this order. So when you're organizing your introduction, however you plan to write your 3 body paragraphs, that's the order that you want these things. So I know as a reader, the next thing I'm fixing to read about in the next paragraph is how are dogs good companions. And then the next paragraph is going to be how they help owners stay active. And then I'm going to be told how they can keep their owners safe. So this is what your roadmap looks like. Okay, let's get into the body paragraphs now. These next 3 paragraphs, they're all going to be pretty much similar because you're doing the same thing just with a different reason or your different point. Now, we'll talk about the 3rd one separately in just a second because that's where you can use a counterpoint if you want to. But basically, based on my roadmap sentence, you knew that my next paragraph was going to be about how dogs make good companions. So ask yourself, what does it mean to be a good companion or a good friend? That's how you're going to prove your statement right there. If you say that a dog is a good companion, you've got to find some way to prove it. Now you can do this with evidence. You can do this with personal examples. The paper that you're given might have facts, surveys, any kind of test results or interviews, whatever. This is how I would do a paragraph about the dog. Humans need companionship so they don't get lonely. Dogs are fantastic friends. They like to be with their owners. They get excited when owners return home. They enjoy just sitting and watching TV together. You know, there's so many different ways you could have gone about this. Other stuff you can add, a personal example of somebody you know with their pet. Now remember, keep it organized. Don't start talking about, you know, how your friend's cat likes to sit and watch TV, because that doesn't have anything to do with what you're trying to do. Don't bring in stuff that go with another point. Don't start rambling. Stay focused. Whatever your topic sentence of this paragraph is, you need to stay on topic. Don't get lost. Paragraph 2 is going to be the same way. It's just going to be about your second topic and the reason. And then paragraph 3 as well. Now I want to stop here just a second and let's talk about this ugly word called plagiarism. Plagiarism on this essay can get your essay kicked out before they even read it. So what is plagiarism? Most people just don't understand what it is. Plagiarism, by definition, is when you use someone else's words or thoughts without giving them credit. Now you can quote anybody you want to all day long. Just give them credit. Say, the article says, or the New York Times says, or Dr. So-and-so says. If you use it word for word, put it in quotation marks. If you rephrase it, if you take something that's in there and you put it in your own words, you still have to give credit. If you change the words all up, you still have to say, in the article it says this. You don't have to put it in quotation marks, but you still have to give credit. A lot of times I see students, they'll take a sentence and they'll change some of the words, but not all of them. The reason they do that is because there's one word in there that they either really like or they don't exactly know what it means, not enough to get another word. So they leave that one big word in there and that sticks out like a sore thumb. That's when the graders know, hey, you plagiarized this and you didn't say that you got this from the article. It is better to over-attribute. That means give too much credit than it is to under. It only takes one time, one instance, and they can chunk your essay. Now, they're not bad about doing that, but it can happen. We only have one opportunity to get this right, or let's just try to get it right on the first time. Let's put it that way. Now, that third paragraph about your counterpoint. Using this counterpoint. A counterpoint is when you go to the other side, when you look at what the other people are saying and you take one of their arguments, bring it into your essay, but you have to be able to refute it. Now, refute it means you have to tell why they're wrong. If you can't tell why they're wrong, don't use it because you don't want to give the other side any help. You're not trying to help their point of view. An example would be, cat owners say they don't like dogs because they bark too much. I personally like the fact that a dog can bark to let me know if there's something wrong. That would be a good counterpoint argument. I have shown what the other side says. On the rubric even, there is a checkbox for acknowledges the other side. That's what you just did. You acknowledged that there is another side and that they do have some points. You also said why this is not valid for you. You could even follow this up with like an example of how a dog barked and alerted its owner to a fire and saved his life. I mean, you know, go ahead. And that's another thing. When you are writing this essay, a personal example is a great way to prove something. And if you don't have a personal example, well, you could fudge just a little bit. That's called creative license. That's what fiction writers do. Nobody said this persuasive essay has to be totally factual. Nobody's going to come look you up and say, look, you told this story, so, you know, how can you prove that? No, if you want to fudge a little bit and come up with your own little personal example, if you're having trouble getting proof for one of your reasons, don't use this on all three of them. That's too much. But if you need to fudge a little bit, you know, a dog that saved your friend's life or something like that, that's fine. Go ahead. Just keep it low-key, keep it real, keep it believable. Okay? The last thing we need to talk about is that conclusion. If your introduction is the first thing your reader sees, it's your first impression, well, your conclusion is probably second most important because that's the last thing they read. You hope they make it to the conclusion. And if they do, you don't want to just fizzle out. Now, keep it simple. Don't be subtle here either. Say what you want to say. Say what you believe. Your conclusion is actually going to be a backwards version of your introduction. Your introduction ended with that roadmap sentence. So your conclusion should start with that roadmap sentence. Different words, a little bit of, a little bit more summarized because you've already proved your point. But go ahead and, somehow subtly bring in those 3 points that you covered in your essay. The last part of your conclusion is the call to action. Now, you really don't get a point for this, but it does make a great lasting impression. What is the whole purpose of a persuasive essay? Well, it's to persuade somebody. What do you want this somebody to do? What do you need your reader to do to support you? Do they need to call somebody? Do they need to write a letter to somebody? Do you want them to get out and vote? Contribute to your cause? Go adopt a pet? Get a dog? Try a dog? I mean, there's just an unlimited amount of things you can ask your reader to do. Throw in a call to action at the end of every persuasive essay. And keep it in mind, I'm looking for something that you can do. I'm trying to convince you. Okay? Next, I'm going to stop and take a real HiSET essay prompt, and we're going to walk through it piece by piece, and I'm going to show you how you can pull the information out of those 2 passages or out of the passage. Sometimes they only give you 1, but I'll show you how to actually apply this. Let's just do a real quick application of this so I can show you how you can apply what we've just talked about to your real essay. Pay attention to the thought processes, what I'm thinking about. Now what you need to follow along with me is the printed versions of the ets.org sample essay and the links down in the description. You can get those. These are the 2 passages. Now, very important, the 3rd page, which we're going to talk about in just a second, has your actual prompt on it. And then you're going to need your essay formula sheet. Okay, that's what you'll be filling in. The first thing you need to do after you skim through your 2 passages, keep going. Don't stop there and think that you already know what your prompt is, because I've seen them throw a few curveballs in it at this point. On this 3rd page, this little part right up here, that's your actual prompt. That tells you what they're looking for. And this one says, write an essay in which you explain your own position on the issue of whether or not, there's your dilemma, whether or not businesses should allow employees to wear casual clothing in the workplace. So, Just think about this for a second. That's what your prompt is. It's not should you get to wear casual clothes, but it's should businesses allow it. That's your focus. Make sure that you are addressing the prompt. That's one of the check marks. Do they address the prompt? Yes. So we're going to be looking at this from the business's point of view. Now, I went through here fairly quickly. As I was reading, I underlined things that are important. Let me get a little bit closer so you can see what I did. Okay, as I read through these and I was trying to decide, what's going to be my stance, because to be honest, I really don't care whether businesses allow casual dress or not. And you probably don't either. A whole lot, but sometimes having a prompt that you don't care very much about is more of a benefit to you than you realize because you're not emotionally invested in it. So, if you can look at this like a scavenger hunt and this sheet, this is your list of what all you need to hunt for. So this is what we're looking for. Here's where all of those things are. So let's see what we can find. Now, as I went through here, I underlined some good points that I thought, I could use to make my decision. One thing is, now that you know the format of a good essay, you know where to look for your stuff. What do you notice about both of these passages? They both have 5 paragraphs, okay? So they're a good essay. That means the top paragraph in each one is my introduction. The bottom paragraph in each one is my conclusion. So all of their supporting points are found in paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. All right, I decided after reading both of these, well, let me go through this first. I looked in paragraph 2 and I underlined the phrase that says actual uniforms or simply following dress code makes people more focused. I underlined in the next paragraph, how can customers trust them to actually be professional? And then I underlined in the 4th paragraph that some people decide to wear clothing more suited to the beach. Okay. In the other passage, the only thing I found, that I thought I could use was the phrase where it says it's not unusual to see CEOs and employees wearing jeans and sweatshirts. So after reading both passages, I decided there is more supporting evidence for a business not allowing casual dress. So on my sheet, when I get ready to start filling these in and I look at what I need, first I need to introduce my topic. Well, that's your dilemma. So my introduction is going to be something along the lines of, should a business allow its employees to wear casual dress clothes or not? You don't know what I think yet. That's a neutral statement, but it does tell you both sides. The next statement is going to be to tell my viewpoint or my thesis. Like I just told you, I decided businesses should not allow casual dress days. Now, am I going to write it just like that in my final essay? Probably not. I'm probably going to try to dress it up a little bit, but for right now, I'm just trying to get the facts filled in on my formula. Okay, so I would be writing these things down. Here's introduce my topic. Remember, you don't need complete sentences on this. This is your rough draft. Okay, you're going to work on it some more. Now, to state my roadmap. This is where I'm probably going to back off and I'm going to come fill in these 3 things. I can't tell you my roadmap until I know where I'm going, and I don't really yet. I have an idea from what I underlined here, but it's still gelling. It's still like baking, so to speak. So, my first reason was that actual uniforms make people more focused. So my reason number 1 is, employees that have a dress code stay more focused. Now, what proof do I have of that? Well, the article says that research shows this. That's going to be my proof. The article says research shows people's attitudes, or people stay more focused, people find it easier to concentrate. Now, like I said, I'm going to work on all that, dressing it up, once I get my formula sheet filled in. Just trying to get the facts. My second reason is going to be that customers find it difficult to trust employees that do not wear professional clothing. This would be a great place, and I'm not going to write it out word for word. I'm just going to make a notation, story about a surgeon in shorts. So I'm probably going to try to put a little story in there about how would you feel if your heart surgeon walked into your exam room wearing, beach shorts and flip-flops? Well, that doesn't tend to make you trust him. You would rather see your surgeon come in a doctor coat or a doctor suit or some scrubs or something professional. All right, so that gets me through reason 2. Now for reason 3. This is where it gets a little interesting, because I'm going to use the counterpoint. We talked about that. So for my reason number 3, instead of sticking with the passage I was in, I'm going to come over here to the other one. I'm going to pick one of their points. Now remember, just like this one, their points were, each paragraph here had a separate point. I'm going to pick this one, that even though a lot of successful companies have CEOs that dress casually, that's introducing their side, then I'm going to bring in this part. However, you're always going to have a few people that carry it too far. Okay? So that's not complete sentences. Once again, I'm just sketching out my ideas right here. Now I have enough information to go back and write my roadmap. Okay? The last thing to fill in here on your formula, and you can see this didn't take a lot of time. Even though I didn't physically write it out, if I were sitting at a desk, I would have. It didn't take a lot of time, and now I know exactly what kind of things my essay needs to say. I can concentrate on my grammar. I can concentrate on my sentence structure. Everything's organized. If I come up with something I want to say about my reason number 1, I know I need to put it up here. I'm not going to be just on a sheet of paper trying to, squeeze it in between the lines or whatever. It's all organized right here. The only thing I might want to give some thought to here is what's going to be my call to action. This particular prompt is a little bit awkward because you should be addressing business owners. So you could say, if you own a business, you might want to consider the fact that your productivity will suffer if you allow your employees to dress casually. Or you might want to say, if you work for a business that requires you to dress professionally, you need to understand that they are concerned with the productivity of the corporation. Okay? All right. I'm going to sit down now and write my essay. I suggest you do one. Fill this out. Attach it to your essay if you're turning it in to me. I want to see this. This really matters. It can make all the difference in the world in your final copy. When I get through with my final essay on this, I will share that with you, and you can pick it apart and kind of see how yours compares to mine. Okay? Good luck, guys. I know y'all can do this. Bye.